Hello. The purpose of this film is to talk about a number of educational principles appropriate for safety and health training and for the development of students' safety competencies. The reason for this lecture is that you as an instructor need to be capable of managing your health and safety training session in the best possible way. The teaching method we wish to introduce to you is called the process-oriented educational principles. But before we kick off, let's go through the agenda. Why do we need to apply other educational principles? The process-oriented approach for health and safety training? What educational principles should be applied, and what's the difference between traditional educational principles and the process-oriented approach? How can the new educational approach be applied in the classroom? If you study this movie and the materials uploaded on the website embodysafety.com, you should be able to develop these educational teaching skills. And now let's meet the instructors for this movie. Jay and Jun have maritime backgrounds and are experienced instructors both in the academe and maritime training centers. They are accredited by the Danish Maritime Authority to conduct safety and health courses and have conducted various courses worldwide using the process-oriented educational principles.
So the first thing we will be addressing is the question, why do we need to apply other educational principles for health and safety training? Remember, it's not what you learn that has the largest impact on your behavior. The way you learn something has a far more decisive impact. Or in other words, we need to create a learning environment that supports safety behavior we wish to develop.
Okay, bearing this in mind, let's look at the learning goals of this type of training. The most important learning goals are:
the student shall understand that he or she is responsible for finding solutions to specific safety and health challenges.
if they don't know the answer to a specific task, they are responsible for finding a good answer, and they should not wait for their superiors to provide them with these answers.
They are responsible for playing an active role in any specific safety and health activities.
Students must be encouraged to develop the assertiveness, proactive conduct, and rhetorical capabilities. They must dare speak up, oppose, argue, and participate in finding of the best solution.
It is easy to see that these learning goals are focused on behaviors and attitudes. Safety, in other words, is far more dependent on appropriate safety behaviors and attitudes rather than specific safety knowledge.
If we are to develop these competencies, we have to design a learning environment that's in the highest degree possible support this learning process. For example,
if we want the students to learn how to communicate safely, we must allow them to practice their communication skills.
if we want these students to understand that they are responsible for their own safety, we must allow them to show responsibility.
If we want the students to become assertive, we must create a learning environment where they are allowed to express themselves and speak up.
These are very, very important learning points for an instructor to understand when he carries out health and safety training. To ensure that the students develop good health and safety competencies, the instructor process-oriented educational principles have been assessed very effective. This is what this course is all about. Process-oriented educational principles require that the learning situation must be a reflection of the real-life situation. All training sessions are based on the following ideas.
Group processes and problem solving. The students develop in groups their own solutions. Problem-solving methods are taught. The students must be capable of finding solutions to problems they have never met before.
Relevant practical exercises. Create a learning environment which mirrors life on board. The instructor shall act as a facilitator who helps the students evaluate their solutions rather than providing them all the answers.
High level of involvement. Active participation is required from the participants. This way, they will be able to develop their ability to communicate, cooperate, and put forward their opinions. Exchange of experience. When students exchange experiences, they have their experiences challenged and they challenge others.
A link between participants' work and life on board and theory is essential. Just-in-time learning. When students need to find an answer to a question, they will have to seek it. All information is free. Ensure that students have access to information and learning materials necessary to solve the problem.
In short, the most important differences between what can be classified as the traditional learning process and the process-orientated learning style is that the traditional way is to give the students all the answers and solutions, whereas the process-orientated learning style invites the students to develop their own answers and solutions. To find out more about these differences, you can study the section called Educational Principles on EmbodySafety.com. There are many ways to develop health and safety competencies. This can happen through e-learning, watching videos, searching for information on your computer, reading a book, or via practical exercises. But competencies, just like the quote says, are first fully embedded when they are tested interactively with others and in real-life situations.
Through interaction with colleagues and other people, the learner will have his or her attitudes, understanding and opinions tested and evaluated. These interactions provides more depth to the learning process and is particularly important during the development of safety competencies. To support the best learning process, it is important to integrate learning activities that ensure participants are given the opportunity to develop precisely these competencies.
There is a great difference between hearing something and actually participating in and completing practical assignments. Nothing is learned before it is brought into play. Having knowledge about something is not the same as being capable of doing it. Practical exercises are important, and research within this field of work shows you learn better when you can test the theory you have been taught.
The process of orientated learning is divided into 3 steps: student instruction, student group work and interactions, student presentation and feedback.
Let's have a look at these 3 steps, and for the purpose of our exercise, do it in the context of a risk assessment assignment. We'll start with the student instruction. Explain to the students the following assignment issues. Highlight exercise duration.
You will be given 30 minutes to complete this exercise.
Explain the exercise objectives.
The objective of this exercise is to apply the concepts of risk assessment as discussed in the previous lectures and discussion.
Directions of the exercises. What should the students do?
Each group should come up with a poster containing or showing the principles of risk assessment.
Explain to the students that they should present their group work for their fellow classmates.
Assign a speaker from your group and he will present your outputs to the class. You will be given 5 minutes to present your work.
Explain how they shall evaluate the presentations.
After the presentation, other groups may give their feedback or comments regarding the work.
To ensure that the students understand how to manage the exercise, also explain the following directions.
They have to find the answers. It is a problem-solving exercise where the answer is not given beforehand.
The solution is an assessment. There is no exact answer. There is a solution taking into account the context and conditions under which the job has to be performed.
Introduce the risk assessment tool by showing them an example of the assessment process.
Ask the students to evaluate the hazards.
Introduce them to the materials where they can find inspiration and knowledge. Ask them to make use of the classroom posters.
Divide them into groups and ask them to come up with a shared group answer.
Highlight the fact that it is a group assignment, and the group in cooperation shall come up with answers to the assignment.
Since the students, while they are on board, will help to evaluate these hazards themselves, you as an instructor shall not provide them with the answers. Ask them to develop their own hazard management strategy.
In this respect, You have to be careful not to take control of finding the correct solution. You have to remember the overriding learning goals are
Learning to take initiatives related to safety.
understanding that safety is everybody's responsibility,
Developing communicative and cooperating competencies.
developing proactive, assertive, involving, and visible safety behaviors,
Building risk assessment capabilities or knowledge.
Some instructors find it difficult to understand the fact that they are not providing professional knowledge. This, however, is a role they need to forget. Instead, they should focus on their role as a facilitator by helping the students find the answers instead of giving them these. If the instructor provides all the answers, the student will be looking for an instructor on board to manage his or her safety.
Now, let's go to the next step, student work group and interactions.
To evaluate the performance of the students, the instructor should keep an eye on the students' ability to interact with each other. Watch out for the following.
Are students capable of finding the information they need to solve an assignment?
Are they discussing, assessing, evaluating, and seeking answers? Then don't interfere.
If students are struggling to solve the assignment, you as an instructor shall try to help them get back on track.
Focus on the student's ability to describe and manage the whole work from beginning to end, seen from a safety perspective.
For more detailed information, we refer to the instructor section on embodysafety.com. And now, the final step of the process, student presentation and feedback. At this stage, the students shall present their work for you as an instructor and the rest of the students.
To ensure students' performance reflection, evaluation and feedback shall be carried out as follows.
Self-evaluation. The groups assess their own performances.
Student evaluation. The group's fellow students evaluate and provide feedback on the performances.
Instructor evaluation. The instructor carries out an evaluation and provides feedback.
In order to become lifelong learners, the students need to understand the importance of self-evaluation. When students evaluate themselves, they are assessing what they know, do not know, and what they would like to know. They begin to recognize their own strengths and weaknesses. They become more familiar with their own beliefs and possibly misconceptions.
You as an instructor should encourage student and self-evaluation because self-assessment makes students active participants in their education. There are a variety of ways for teachers to provide the students with self-assessments.
Research suggests that the simplest tools to encourage students' self-assessment are evaluative questions that force the students to think about their performances. Some examples of these questions are the following.
How much time and effort did you put into this?
What do you think your strengths and weaknesses were in this assignment?
How could you improve your assignment?
What are the most valuable things you've learned from this assignment?
To carry out the evaluation and to provide feedback, an evaluation form has been prepared. This evaluation form can be found on embodysafety.com. The educational principles provided to you in this learning material can be more effective if you constantly apply them to your teaching approach. If you do so, you should be able to develop your skills and enhance the students' safety competencies. As an instructor, please remember it is not what you learn that has the largest impact on your behavior. The way you learn something has a far more decisive impact.